News 10 First Alert Weather Special, the path to preparedness.
Hello and welcome to the News 10 First Alert Weather Special, Path to Preparedness. Over the next half hour, we'll get you prepared for the spring and summer storm season and what to do after disaster strikes to get your family back on its feet.
Yeah, we'll also cover what impacts an unusually warm winter may have on this year's farmers, now and in the future.
We'll also touch on the impacts the lack of snow may play on our Great Lakes and why your beach days may be a little bit warmer than normal.
But we start in Williamston, where the community is still recovering from an EF2 tornado, a storm that caused millions of dollars in damages and where many scars remain.
This is a News 10 First Alert Weather Special Report.
Wind gusts and downbursts that have been close to 80 miles an hour, where you're looking at remnants of just a small portion of the trees that came down on or along I-96 between Williamston Road and M52 in Weberville. All of this piled here in the median on I-96 was just a small portion of what MDOT had to go in to clean out to make the highways safe to travel once again, which took several weeks to do.
You see your whole life spread across your lawn and the field across the street, and the amount of damage that everything suffered. You know, we lost all but one car.
The Weather Service is calling this a large and dangerous tornado. Well, it's been 7 months since the tornado, but now with vegetation gone, no leaves on the trees, you can see what an EF2 tornado of 120-mile-an-hour winds can do, moving tons of lumber around. Well, the scars on the landscape you may see along I-96, but when it comes to physical buildings and homes, some need repair, some eventually had to be leveled, and for a lucky few, they've already started to rebuild. Well, after decades of reporting on severe weather and tornadoes, it finally happened with the Williamston tornado. As I followed the circulation through Ionia County, South Lansing, 127 and 96 still hadn't touched down. There was a lot of wind damage across mid-Michigan that night, but suddenly a tornado's on the ground east of Okemos along the highway headed through Williamston, and as I'm reporting on it, I'm calling out street names, and suddenly I call out my own as the tornado passes through my neighborhood. Moving through south of Williamston, it's got to be somewhere in the area there of either Lynn Road, south of Grand River. Those areas had the strongest circulation. I reported not too long ago that I've had some texts of people saying their houses were shaking in the Williamston area, since I'm from there. Late at night, when it's all said and done, I've got a message on my phone that a tornado had come through the neighborhood, and when I got home, drones flying. We had also a 16-car truck pile up on the highway, and one fatality was found by morning. This neighborhood still trying to sort it all out. You saw the damage. All that damage was done by the tornado in Williamston. It gives you a whole new respect for what we call the enhanced Fujita scale. That was an EF2, and it's out of a scale that goes 0 to 5. So you would think 2 is on the lower end and couldn't do that much damage, but it does. As we see, most of our tornadoes fall in that 0 or 1 category and rarely get into the 2. We've had 3s and 4s. They do a lot of damage. And if you take a look, EF0 is noticeable that a tornado went through your area, usually tree damage, things like that, maybe siding. EF1, now we're talking about winds over 100 miles an hour, so you get toppling poles, trees uprooted, broken windows, damage to the roof line. You get into the EF2, which that tornado did. Cars can be flipped. You can see a lot of damage. That was what we saw in Williamston and Weberville. Roofs can be blown off and larger trees toppled. We saw a lot of that. Now, when you get to the EF3 or 4 category, this is usually some big damage, and we've had some of these, but it is a rarity in our state to get 3s and 4s. As we get deeper into that number, you start to have major damage. We see a lot of that in the Plain States. Thankfully, the EF5s happen on a rare occurrence. It is more of a historic type tornado that comes through Michigan, and hopefully none of those will appear anytime soon, because those can completely change the landscape.
Well, when severe weather happens, you sometimes only have moments to react, so it's important to plan ahead and know where to find the safest place in your home. I spoke to a local expert to show us where that is. As the emergency manager for Eaton County, Ryan Wilkinson prides himself in having a plan for any outcome. I invited Ryan to my house to help me figure out the best place I can go to keep my family and I safe during severe weather.
Do you have a plan? Do you know where you're going to go? Those are the two main things, talking about, again, the interior-most room, windowless room, protect yourself. Second message, make sure you always understand what systems you have in your locale, in your local area, in terms of receiving alerts, warnings, and notifications.
And make sure you aren't simply relying on outdoor sirens to indicate when a bad storm is near. Those are only meant to alert those already outside to head in for shelter.
I know for Eaton County Emergency Management, same as Eaton County 911, all of our alert systems are automatically uploaded to social media. So that's another instant way to receive that information. Following news outlets like WILX, obviously, and then that, just normal face-to-face or personal communication. I mean, if you have somebody close by that checks in on you, if they are able to make sure that, warnings and other information are relayed to you.
With all that information in mind, it's time now to go through the house and figure out the best spot to go during a severe storm.
So just looking around this basement here, looks like we have the walkout area right over here, so we want to kind of stray away from this room. Sure. But it looks like we have a back closet here. There's items in here, so again, you want to protect your body if you do come into this room, if this is your plan for knowing where you want to go. But this back room would work well. It looks like coming back here this way also. You've got kind of a laundry area, window right here though, so our other option is the bathroom right here. Looks like you have a windowless bathroom. I know it's small, it can be cramped if you have a larger family. This could be a part of your plan, right, or your pre-plan, knowing where to go. Maybe a few of you go to one side in the back closet here, or a few of you go in here to the bathroom. These are usually pretty quick, minimal to no warning events. So we want to make sure, again, do you have a plan? Do you know where to go?
Ryan says that if you don't have a basement, getting to the lowest level of your home will keep you most protected. He says it's also a good idea to cover yourself with large items such as couch cushions. With severe weather safety inside a house now covered, Ryan and I drove over to the Cricket Ridge apartment complex to find the best places we can shelter there.
Apartment living, best place to go when there's no basement. Looking in this bedroom here, you have a few rooms available. You have a windowless closet here, but it's on the exterior of the building. So not a bad option, but probably not your first option. So we want to look more towards the interior of your building. You have a large closet here. You have a bathroom. They're windowless. And this is where the strength of your building is. So these would be your best options in terms of sheltering in the event of severe weather.
And Ryan also added that for manufactured homes, mobile homes, or trailers, that those same rules apply in the event of severe weather. You want to get to the most interior area possible and use items to shield your body from any debris.
Before we go to break, we want to debunk some weather myths. True or false, prior to severe storms, you should open the windows in your home to equalize the air pressure and then seek shelter. The answer when we come back.
Well, should you open your windows prior to severe weather? The answer to that is false. Opening your windows will only waste important time. Plus, a severe storm will likely open them for you.
And last summer, the importance of having more than one way to receive severe warning information became even clearer. Perry lost its tornado siren when an EF1 tornado destroyed it in August. The siren has since been replaced, but do you know how to get warning information if no siren exists? I break down how exactly you should get that life-saving information. There are many different ways to receive warning information, and how you get that warning information really comes down to what you are doing and where you are at. If you are at home, is it as easy as turning on channel 10 and getting your warning information that way? Or is there more to it? Or what do you do if a warning is issued and you're behind the wheel? Let's say you're outside enjoying the beautiful weather this summer when all of a sudden you see storms rolling in. How do you get warning information if you are outside? When you are at home, you have a full range of options. You can count on your First Alert weather team to provide immediate coverage of any warning that is issued on air and on our streaming platforms. Your phone will also provide warning information through the federal government's emergency alert system. If you download the News 10 First Alert weather app, push notifications will also alert you to any warnings. But if you are driving, it can be more difficult. Notifications will still be sent to your phone, but you may not see them. Find local radio stations that are broadcasting severe weather alerts. Know what county you are in and if severe weather is possible. And if it comes down to it, delay your trip to avoid any severe storms. When you are outside, the first alert you will receive is likely from a tornado siren. These are strategically placed in areas where people are outside, like near parks. These are meant for outdoor warnings only and should not be relied on if you are inside a home or business. Cell phones or NOAA weather radios are useful tools to keep with you on any potential stormy day. And again, it is important to make sure you have more than one way to receive warning information, and luckily there are many tools to do it.
Following a big storm, the hard work begins of restoring your home and life. The sooner you reach out to those who can offer assistance, the sooner help will arrive. Who do you call first after a storm hits your home? We talked to a local insurance agent on what to do.
So first of all, I would reach out to possibly a contractor and just mitigate any loss. So, you know, if you've got water coming through, get somebody out there right away to tarp a roof or something like that. And obviously reach out to your insurance agent as soon as you can. Get a claim filed. You will need to document your damages. Make sure to save your receipts for any out-of-pocket expenses. We recommend homeowners kind of annually or regularly go through their house with their phone and kind of video what's in their house, and it helps kind of trigger the memory to recall what was there. But as far as receipts and stuff like that go, typically the claim rep will work with you through that process. Make sure to protect yourself from fraud after a storm and be leery of contractors who show up at your door that you didn't contact. What we've seen the last few years is a lot of out-of-area storm chasers that are coming in and trying to tell people and sell them that they have hail damage to the roof when really they don't. There wasn't a significant enough hailstorm that came in to cause the damage. So I would be really wary about somebody coming knocking on your door trying to sell you a new roof. I would reach out to your insurance agent. He can point you in the direction of a reputable roofing company. Did you know if your neighbor's tree falls and damages your house, in most cases it is your insurance company that will pay for the damage? If you have questions about your homeowner's insurance, make sure to reach out to your agent. They're there to help you out.
And here's our second severe weather myth. True or false? You should stay off the phone during a storm with lightning. We've got your answer after the break.
Or should you stay off your phone during a storm with lightning? The answer, mainly false. Staying off the phone only applies now to an old-fashioned landline that are not remotes.
And it's being called the 2-week winter, a season that saw record high temperatures, small amounts of snow, and little ice cover on the Great Lakes. I find out how this lackluster winter will affect our Great Lakes this year. Take a look. One of the biggest stories from this past winter was the lack of ice cover on the Great Lakes. And a lot of people think that that is going to have a big impact on the water levels on the Great Lakes. But as I found out, that is not necessarily the case. Lake Huron, void of any ice on this late March afternoon. A familiar sight for all of the Great Lakes this past winter. A winter that saw below average ice cover on every lake.
Very abnormal conditions with respect to ice.
The ice cover set record lows in February. This graphic from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration tells a story. Not once did we get even close to what is considered average. I caught up with Keith Kompultowicz, chief of the Hydraulics and Hydrology branch for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in Detroit. He studies how the weather impacts the Great Lakes. He says while the lack of ice will have an effect on the Great Lakes, it's not as big of an impact as you might think.
Ice by itself isn't necessarily an indicator of what to expect. There's the thought that ice caps evaporation, which is true. But we see the largest evaporation rates on the lakes when we have very cold air interacting with warmer lake water. In the very warm nature of our winter, we didn't really see that large difference between air and water temperature.
Kompultowicz explained that ice cover is just a piece of the pie and that the biggest impact from this past winter will actually be from the lack of snow.
The biggest thing that we look at is that snowpack, because the water that's contained in the snow will lead to the seasonal rise each spring. And we really don't have much snow water equivalent or the water that's contained in the snowpack at all in the Great Lakes Basin.
The basin includes surrounding states and parts of Canada, and nowhere in this region saw normal snowfall. So this year, the lakes will come down.
We're seeing lower stream flows, lower soil moisture, low snow water equivalent, and all those things combine to lead us to that lower forecast going into the spring and summer.
And another effect from this unusual winter is that our Great Lakes will likely be warmer this summer than in years past.
Well, just like the Great Lakes, farming is a big part of our mid-Michigan economy. And what will our warm and below average snowfall winter mean for crops this year? And how will a warming climate possibly change what our farmers face in the coming decades? I spoke to some experts to find out. No doubt about it, we did not have much of a winter this year. Lansing was 16 inches below normal for snowfall December through February. We actually saw more snowfall in March than in December and February, but we did receive above average precipitation with rounds of rain. Temperatures averaged 6.9 degrees above normal this past winter, making it the warmest winter on record for Lansing. What will the warm and generally wet winter mean for crops this year? Stephanie Zelenko is an agronomist from AgroLiquid in St. John's. Her job is to figure out what needs to be done in the farm fields to have a good crop.
So if you looked, we had a warm December, pretty warm January, and a really warm February. And so I think those crops were dormant like they should be, happy sleeping throughout those early winter months. But then when we got that warm February, I think things are starting to wake up a little bit. And really what that means is we're just going to have an earlier season than we anticipate.
The lack of moisture from snow this winter was more than made up with our increased rainfall, but is too much rain going to cause other concerns?
The biggest concern with a lack of snowfall is not getting that moisture, but we have had a lot of rain to kind of offset that for us, so I'm not too concerned going into the growing season.
Looking to the future, climate change may have both positive and negative impacts on agricultural yields in the Great Lakes region. Dr. Jeff Andreessen is a professor at Michigan State University who specializes in agricultural meteorology.
A mixed bag.
Okay.
And so, unquestionably, the trajectory that our climate is on here in Michigan and the Great Lakes region, the upper Midwest, is warmer and wetter. But there are some important distinctions. The warming of about 2 degrees Fahrenheit over the last 100 years or so hasn't been symmetrical or distributed around it. Most of it's occurring in the cold season. Now 10 to 15% more precipitation on an annual basis than we had just 50 years ago. There's also the too much of a good thing.
Earlier growing seasons followed by freezes are harder and more expensive for fruit crop growers to adapt to.
It's more of a challenge, but they're also, in many cases, they're more valuable. So the grower, the producer, will probably look at technology or ways at least to try and reduce the risk of frost, for example, for tree fruit. And that's happening. We see that happening now.
So what does the future hold for local agriculture in a warming world?
I know I don't have a good answer if we are, but what I do know is, we still need to produce a crop. And so we have challenges every year. Sometimes it's too much moisture, sometimes it's not enough, sometimes it's cold, sometimes it's too hot. And so in agriculture, we just have to kind of roll with what Mother Nature gives us and then produce that crop so we can feed the world.
For more on farming in the Great Lakes region in a warming climate, you can visit the GLESA website.
And our final weather myth: heat index temperatures do not apply to humans. Stay tuned. We have your answer when we come back.
Does the heat index not apply to humans? That is false. The heat index shows how you feel as heat and humidity rises, and sweating does not help you cool down as effectively.
Well, a look ahead into the summer outlook requires a brief look back at winter, which was under an El Nino pattern, which means the ocean temperatures were warmer above normal, creating different weather patterns across the nation. And for us, it gave us a record-setting warm winter, very wet along the Gulf Coast, West Coast, and everybody had a pretty low number when it came to snowfall. Now, El Nino is done, but we're still watching the ocean temperatures as they slowly cool back to more of a neutral phase or normal. And that's how the summer outlook is based off the fact that when you're in that neutral phase, you have a very normal summer with temperatures being above normal, maybe even well above normal at times, and your precipitation is scattered about so you get some adequate amount of moisture. We might actually eventually cool down the Pacific Ocean so that we'll go into a La Nina event, which goes into winter. But right now, it looks pretty good if you're a summer lover.
That's good. All right, thank you for joining us for our Path to Preparedness, getting you ready for whatever Mother Nature has in store for us during severe weather season.
Make sure you stay tuned to TV 10 for your most up-to-date First Alert forecast.
Make sure to download the First Alert weather app for when you're away from your TV. The app is free to download.
On behalf of the First Alert Weather Team, we hope you'll continue to trust us when severe weather strikes.